So we're going to convert the following function to vertex form. So this is example number 3 in lesson 3.3. So we're going to start by putting brackets around your ax squared plus bx terms. So that's step 1. Step 2, as we can see, we have a 2 in front of x squared, which we need to factor out from both of these terms. Now with fractions, we're going to have to make sure we actually divide out that 2 from both of these. So y is going to equal 2 in front of your brackets, x squared. And at the side, I'm going to show you guys how to divide out 2 from negative 5 over 6. So I'll take negative 5 over 6. I'm going to divide out 2 from that fraction. So this is the same thing as saying negative 5 over 6 multiplied by the reciprocal of this value. The reciprocal of this value is 1 over 2. So if you divide by 2, it's the same as multiplying by a half. When we multiply the top numbers together separately than the bottom. So we have negative 5 over 12. That's our new fraction. So we're going to write it as negative 5 over 12x. We're going to leave some space, and we're going to have our c value outside of the bracket, plus 1. Next, the rule for getting a perfect square trinomial is we always have to take half of this term, and then we have to square that number. So we're going to have to take half of this number and square it. So again, I'm going to do that to the side, using fraction information. So negative 5 over 12. Again, I'm going to have to divide that number by 2. But then I'm going to have to square that answer. So again, just like the previous step, I'm going to have to multiply by 1/2. It's the reciprocal of that 2. So that'll be negative 5 over 24. Next, I'm going to have to square that number to get that perfect square trinomial. So when I square that number, I have to square the top and the bottom separately. So negative 5 squared would give me 25 positive, and 24 squared would give me 576. Okay, so that's half of the middle number, half your b value, and then squaring it. So this is the number we're going to have to add and subtract. So right now I'm going to add that number that I took half and squared that as 25 over 576. And right away you have to subtract that exact same number of 25 over 576. Our next step is we always try to remove that negative value. But in order to do that, I have to multiply by the number in front. So I'm going to have to multiply that number by 2. So at the side, I'm going to take negative 25 over 576, and I'm going to multiply that number by 2 over 1. Okay, so 2 over 1 is still the same as 2. I just like to make sure that there's a denominator, so the tops multiply separately than the denominators. So that would give me negative 50 over 576. So that's the number I'm removing outside of that bracket. So now I'll rewrite my function as 2 in front of x squared minus 512x plus 25 over 576. Outside of the bracket, I'm going to have this negative 50 over 576. And we still have this plus 1 as well. What I like to do next is I like to combine my q values together. In order to add or subtract fractions, you need common denominators. So I have to make sure that this, right now, which is over 1, becomes 576 as well. So again, I'll do that to the side. So negative 50 over 576, I'm going to add it with 576 over 576, which is the same thing as 1, right? I multiply the top and the bottom by the common denominator that I want. So if I subtract 50 from that, I'm going to get positive 526 over 576. Both of these numbers can be simplified as well. So you want to always simplify your fractions. So simplify. The simplified fraction would be 263 over 288. So always simplify your fractions. So once I add them or subtract them, you need to make sure you get your common denominators and make sure you simplify your fractions. So this is my Q value. The next thing I also want to do is I want to factor this. Right now we have the ax squared plus bx plus c form. I want to factor it so it looks like x minus p squared. So the trick is it's always going to be half of this number. We already did that step to the side right here. So we already took half that number. So by taking the answer of it, you already have that Q value. So our Q value would be half of it, which is negative 5 over 24 squared outside the bracket. And finally, our simplified fraction for Q, we're going to add it as 263 over 288. The last step, we want to write the vertex. The vertex will always be my p-value, so it's always the opposite sign, 5 over 24, and your Q value, 263 over 288.